goodbye. For a cancer patient, that word has two very different meanings. That's why when we've done everything we can, we do things nobody's done before.
I did it, Mom.
At the Christ Hospital Health Network, we collaborate with Dana-Farber Brigham Cancer Center to offer next-level care, developed by the world's best minds. Treatment that could change your odds. Or maybe the world. The Christ Hospital Health Network. Everything it takes.
The Pound This podcast is brought to you by the Christ Hospital Health Network. This is the Pound This podcast, episode 789, Emotional Eating.
I want to lose weight, but I don't know how to get started.
What should I meal prep every week?
How do I get those sweet booty gains?
Inspiration for your healthy lifestyle. The Pound This podcast with Amanda Valentine.
What up, friends? Thank you so much for listening to the Pound This podcast. I am Amanda Valentine, and let's talk about emotional eating. What a party, right? Such a fun, lighthearted topic. Oh, I have lots and lots to say about emotional eating, and let's dig into it. But before I do that, I do want to talk to you about some amazing resources that can help you with food, emotional or not. That's my friend Sarah at Team Fit With Me, who's been a fantastic health coach who knows a lot about my emotional eating. She's a fantastic resource to help you learn about nutrition, macros, if you got gut health issues, all of that stuff, and can definitely speak from experience talking through issues like emotional eating and gets it. So if you're looking for a great health coach, look into Team Fit With Me. You can save 10% off month one of all packages and plans when you go to teamfitwithme.com/poundthis. Also, another amazing food resource is Clean Eats in Newport and in Westchester here in Cincinnati. There's also Clean Eats all over the country if you want to find a location near you. And I've been a meal prepper for almost a decade, and I am very excited to take a little break from meal prepping myself and actually have more variety in my diet. And having Clean Eats in my life has been fantastic. Highly recommend. All the food is delicious, no complaints, and I would be honest about it. If there was something where I'm like, ugh, no, it's been phenomenal. So if you're looking for some great food, check into Clean Eats. And I will say, as if you listen to the previous episode, I had my Amanda's Diary episode, which is also, this is kind of an extension of that, of how much I've been emotionally eating and just kind of been in a down place here lately. Having Clean Eats in my life has been definitely very helpful. Keep me mostly regulated during some trying times for me. It's just the meals that I'm choosing outside of the Clean Eats right now are not helping me in any way, where I'm going into some emotional eating. So let's dive right into that topic. And before, I just want to preface that I am not a mental health expert. I am not a therapist. I am not a psychologist or psychiatrist. I am also not a registered dietitian. I am a certified personal trainer and nutritionist. And I'm just a person who has lived through this my entire life, and definitely reads a lot and studies a lot on mental health as I'm trying to work through my own issues, and have just interviewed hundreds and hundreds of people on this podcast and had lots of discussions in my own personal life and through people that I've coached as a health coach, as a personal trainer, as people who have reached out to me because of this podcast, people who have reached out to me because I used to be on the radio and talk about this stuff. So that's just where my knowledge base is coming from. So I want to say that this is not medical advice in any way, form, or fashion. This is just opinion from me as a person living through this journey and the things that I've learned along the way. And I'm sure if I recorded a podcast 6 months from now on emotional eating, I would have more to add, and my opinions change. If you go back to the first podcast that I recorded in 2018, you're going to hear probably a lot of different opinions in places where I was in my life then compared to where I am now. And I'm sure I had a lot of different thoughts on emotional eating. I am not going to go back and listen to those episodes. You can if you want. I will not. I don't want to hear an older version of me right now. That sounds terrible to me. But, so I just do want to say that. So this is where I'm coming from. So a backstory about me of this, for some reason, is the first episode you're listening to. Thank you so much for being here. Man, and there's just like so much to my story that I have not shared, that I would like to share. I'm just not in a place to at this point in time. And I know that's such a freaking tease, but I'm getting there as I'm again working on mental health stuff like that. But I have dealt with emotional things and trauma from a very young age through now. And so that definitely plays a role into where emotional eating comes in. But part of those emotions and not knowing how to regulating it turned into me being obese from as long as I can remember. And just being very unhappy with myself, just very much hating myself and my body for a very, very, very long time, and not knowing really what to do about it at all, or understanding while I was binging and didn't even know it was binging. I didn't know I was binge eating until I started this podcast. I didn't even put that label on it. But I have since learned that I've had binge eating disorder. But so from there, then I did all these fad diets, as you do. And I did that for a decade. I spent my whole 20s fad dieting. So, losing weight and gaining it back, and losing weight and gaining it back, like you do when you do fad diets. And then really started diving into some core issues and just wanted to live my best life with my New Year's resolution in 2012 to make the best decision possible in every moment and start living a healthier life and living the life that I wanted to live, which has brought me here to this moment. And even though it's been almost 11 years now on this wellness journey of making this work in the ways that I've always hoped it would work, that doesn't mean that these deep-seated issues go away forever. Which is why I wanted to talk about this, because it's a hard thing. If you are an emotional eater, as I am, it's one of those things you can really easily beat yourself up for. And you can really spiral yourself even further by beating yourself up over things that you're doing to cope and try to take care of yourself. And to see it from that lens has been very helpful for me. Because I learned at a very young age, this is specific, I guess, more to binge eating and emotional eating. I would just be sad or lonely or depressed or angry or having these strong emotions. And I knew that food gave me comfort and joy. And so then I would just kind of go into a binge to numb out. And food, it was easily accessible. The highly processed foods that really kind of light your brain up and that you can just eat a ton of. And so that's been a coping mechanism for me for a very, very long time. And again, I didn't realize all of these aspects of it until, the past several years. But that's where I feel like I feel like I've had moments of my life or seasons of my life where I've had a really good relationship with it, where I've really worked through that. I know my triggers. I know my triggers really well. And if I'm feeling triggered, having things to do that kind of fill that space or give me joy or have gratitude, so I don't just eat to punish myself, or I guess eat to numb out. Because I think food is amazing and food is for celebration, and there's food, food's great. And that's why I'm I don't want to label things good foods or bad foods or good behaviors and bad behaviors. It's, I think, just recognizing things that you find personally harmful to you, and how do you stop that? And I think that the term emotional eating gets slapped on that. If I'm having a strong emotion and I cope by eating, and then on the other side of that, you feel frustration or anger with yourself because you made that choice, because now you're oh, I don't feel good. I have gut issues. I have gas. I feel gross. My skin's not looking great. I'm gaining weight. I can feel my joints ache. I mean, there's just a lot of repercussions from doing that a lot. And I mean, there's just repercussions from having the mental health and stress of where you're at, that you are having that emotional response where you're using food to feel safe and feel better. And so I feel as much as I know and as much as I've worked on myself, I've had really healthy relationships with that. And then when things get tougher or harder, and I think again through a global pandemic and things like that, then things get rough and you kind of go back into old coping mechanisms. And, you know, and I think there's really great ways to handle it. And it's so funny because I Googled, you know, what to do with emotional eating. Cause I'm like, well, what if I was just going to Google it? What is the internet going to tell me? And there's some things that I agree with and like, and these do. And like, and you almost feel like they're cliche at this point, but like, this has really been helpful for me in my personal journey. I know this has been helpful for other people in my life, but it's like having a list of things that do bring you joy, of things that you can do when you feel like you're going into like, you're stressed out, you are tired, you're hangry, you're having strong emotions, and you're like, I'm going to eat a whole bag of M&Ms, like a big bag. You know what I'm talking about? Like the giant bag that's like, you know, infant sized. Of like, I need to eat this to just like numb out or feel better. I need the sugar or any of those things. It's when I love having a list of like, what are the other things that when those strong feelings come up, that also make me feel good, like food makes me feel good. And I love being outside. I love going for a walk outside. So if that's possible, that's on my list. And I recommend keeping like this list on your fridge. So it's like right there, not that because of the food thing, it's just because it's like an easy place where you're going to look at the fridge at some point. You know what I mean? Or the bathroom mirror, I guess, maybe that's another place. Or hanging over the toilet, whatever. And so this is my list. So it's like going for a walk in nature, just being outside, even just going outside. And this might sound like woo-woo-y, but like take my shoes off and go in the grass and like ground myself, like just go outside for a minute and just try to like reset. So that was a suggestion on the internet. Just go for a walk. Also just drinking some water. Sometimes that helps. Sometimes it doesn't. So I will say that from my experience, but like, yeah, just maybe drinking some water, like something like for me, nice cold water, kind of like just try to put a little just different feeling, I guess, in your face. That for me, I really love taking showers. So I will having those strong emotions. I like having like a dark shower, like a candle lit, playing some music and taking a shower. Like that was really soothing and I really enjoy that. And so that's something for me too. I'm feeling strong emotions, whatever that is. You know, if it's sad, I can go cry it out in the shower, enjoy the shower. I love my shower time. Not really much a bath person, but maybe a bath for you. So those are really big for me. I try to journal and I know journaling is so good for you and I go off and on with that. That's just my own experience. I wish I was better at it. I wish I stayed more consistent, trying. But then meditation also, that's been really, really helpful for me. I converted one of my closets into a little like meditation space. So I go like lay down in there because I kind of like lock all my animals out and it's just my own little tiny little cubby. And I do guided meditations on YouTube and that really kind of helps reset me too. So that's where those are some of my techniques. Those are things that I just truly enjoy. And I know that if I'm feeling this certain sort of way and I'm feeling those strong emotions and my first initial reaction, just because it's ingrained into me is like, go find some sugary food, go get some really buttery stuff. Like I love butter. Or just whatever. I'm like, well, hey, let me try one of these other things first. And let me go for that walk if I can. Let me take a shower. Let me go meditate. Let me journal. I don't know, not that this is healthy either. Scroll on TikTok. Do these things and let me do it. And if on the other side of that food is still calling to me, then I'll eat it. Then it's fine. But most of the time when I make those other choices that also give me comfort to those emotional responses, I usually don't go for the food afterwards. So that's where it's really helpful for me. It's where it's like, it's not just the food, it's my emotion that is controlling me. And I have just trained myself for my entire life that food is the best avenue to calm those feelings because I don't want to feel them. And I've been really working on the past several years of like feeling my feelings. I know that's very therapy, but sitting in them and feeling them. And I do that. And I will say though, but sometimes I'm like, nope, I don't want to. No, I would give me cake. Like, I felt my feelings enough right now. Let me eat. And that's just, for me, that is just reality. So that's why I feel like, doing these Google searches of seeing what Google is saying, like, yeah, those things are great. And that's amazing. And that's a fantastic list. And that's great suggestions. But they're not always going to work. And I think that's the part that these articles don't say in them. And I think not only that, but it's okay that they don't work. At least, again, in my untrained, I'm not a therapist opinion, because life isn't perfect and it's all a learning experience. And it's real life to be like, sometimes you're like, hey, I know I can make better choices. And you're just like, but I don't care. I'm making the bad choice. You know what I mean? Like, how many times you're like, I'm just going to have 2 cocktails and then I'm good. I'm going to go home. And then there's like this transition in the night where it's like, do you leave? Or do you stay and you drink a couple more? And you're like, and you're like, I know better, but I ain't gonna do it. And then you're hungover the next day. You know what I mean? Like, there's just like, it's that for me, that's just life. So I think it's giving your self-grace through those things, which is hard, especially if you've trained yourself to be a bully to yourself and you're beating yourself up over making those choices, especially over food. I especially think if that you're in my age group, like millennial age group, I'm an elder millennial, that you're just have all of these food rules and like all of this like disordered eating and disordered relationships around food. And it's freaking hard. It's really hard. It is so hard. It's so hard for people, no matter what, whether it is your passion and you love learning about it or you don't know anything about it at all. Like, it is hard for everyone. And I think that's one of the things that I'm proud of myself for being in this season of life I'm in right now, where I'm definitely leaning on emotional eating way more than I have in the past several years. I don't know if I want to count COVID or whatever. Like, these past couple of years, like, they're weird. You know what I mean? But I feel like I know exactly what I'm doing. Like, I know exactly the emotions. I know exactly what this food is doing to my body. I know exactly what these food choices I'm making are doing. And I am choosing to ignore my own knowledge and belief system, weirdly, to be like, nah, dog, I'm eating this because I don't want to feel this right now. And I recognize that I am making those choices right in this moment of my life. And I'm also choosing to not be mad at myself and not hate myself for it, which I think is a huge win. And I think that's the hardest part. I know that, it's just one of the things of like, I think self-awareness of where are these feelings coming from, and then how are you dealing with them, and is the way you're dealing with them good with you? And I think that's ultimately what it comes down to, is not what other people are telling you should or shouldn't do. You know what I mean? What feels good for you or not. And then to just really feeling your own feelings through that of how do you feel about these decisions. I know right now for me with emotional eating, I'm making decisions that frustrate me, I guess, where I'm like, I know better and I'm still not doing better. But I'm like, I know in the very near future, I am going to do better. And I think part of that for me is also setting goals for myself. Like right now, if you listen to my last episode, I talked about it. I'm like, I want to learn how to swim. And at the moment of recording this, I have my first swim lesson this week. And I think that having this other new goal and something to focus on and something that I'm excited about and yet scared about, and something that's pushing myself out of a comfort zone and doing all that for me, will definitely help kind of dig me out of the headspace I'm in. And so I'm like, I know what I'm doing right now, but it's how I'm taking care of me right now, if that makes sense. And I'm changing. I'm also recognizing it and understanding what I need to do to get out of it. And that's something that I know will help, or at least hoping, I guess. I don't know 100%. I don't know the future. But I know me really well at this point of that's going to help me a lot. So I think it's a lot of those things when you're talking about emotional eating is being self-aware, feeling those feelings. Where are they coming from? Recognizing when you're going to food for comfort, are there other things that you can do? And then if you're in the pattern place where you're just even blowing past the things where you're like, I know I do these other things and that makes me feel better and I don't care and I'm still making choices I don't want to make, then you're like, okay, well, what is another step then? And figuring that out for yourself or asking for help. Oh my gosh, ask for help all day long. You know what I mean? Ask your friends, ask your family, ask a therapist, talk to a coach, whoever that is for you. Of like, I think we're all going through it to some degree and wherever we're at in our life. And I think that, you know, if you're not around people or have people that you can ask for help, you need to find some more people, because I think we could all reach out and get some advice and some help at this point. And I'm very grateful that I have so many people in my life currently that I can reach out to and ask for help. And I do. And it's been incredibly helpful to talk things out and to be like, express like what I think goals should be. And, you know, I'm doing things that are harmful to myself and I'm aware of it. And how do I stop it? You know what I mean? So, yeah, it's a lot to go through. Life is hard, man. And especially like just, you know, when you're bombarded with so many unhealthy choices for yourself, to try to make the harder choice to be like, I'm going to be healthy, whatever that means for you, you know, whether that is nutrition or it is through exercise or it is through mental health or, you know, is it through your spiritual health, whatever those things are. It's hard work to grow and nurture those things in a world that is demanding our attention in like 10,000 other ways other than on yourself. So that's already a hard choice to choose to even look at those things, but much less to work on them and work through like deep-seated issues and old patterns. It's incredibly hard work. I will say through my own personal journey, it is incredibly worth it. Which is why I have this podcast. And this is why I'm still here and I'm discussing it, and I'm discussing parts of my journey that are hard and I'm struggling through, and that's just life, because I care about this. I care about my health so much that I'm, you know, keep on digging to keep going through it. It wasn't like, for me, this wasn't another fad diet. You know what I mean? It's like where I've done that before, where it's like you do all this work and you lose 60 pounds and then you gain it back, and then you just like, you know, do your thing for a few years or whatever it is until you do it again. And this is where I'm like, no, I'm in the thick of it, and I'm wrestling through every moment of it. It's not throwing in the towel and then having to start over. So I'm definitely not starting over, but it's just like, it's life. You're going to hit rough patches. Everything isn't going to stay the same. And so you're going to deal with things in different ways. And, you know, old patterns are going to come back up in new ways when new scenarios are thrown in your face. And it's just life. And I think that, you know, if you care enough about yourself and your health specifically, which if you're listening to this podcast, you obviously do, then you're willing to put that fight up for yourself and dig through these things and figure them out. And I feel like if you do listen to my podcast, you probably have had experiences with emotional eating, because I talk about this stuff a lot. And so I'm just really hoping that this is helpful, and also just a reminder of, you know, don't give up. And, you know, this isn't something that's probably going to ever go away, and not to say that to discourage you, but to encourage you. So when it pops up again, you just don't give up. You know what I mean? Of like, oh, I thought I had this fixed and now it's here again. Ugh, I'm not going to do this anymore. This is stupid. You know what I mean? Of like, that's just part of the journey. And I think that when you keep working on that yourself, it's just going to be even more rewarding than ever. Of like, like I was just saying, like the part of me that I'm like, I am not mad at myself right now for making choices that I know are actively not the best choices for me, that I'm not living in my own mantra of making the best decision in every moment. That could really make me be like, what am I doing any of this for? I'm just going to shut this podcast down. That's what I started this all on, and I'm not even living my own mantra in this specific season of my life. This has not been going on forever, but I'm also going through some very hard things in my life right now. So I not that I need excuses, but it just, you know what I mean? It just happens. But I'm like, I want to be like, no, this is part of it. And I am fighting through this because I strongly believe I want to live this healthy life. I want to feel good in my own body, and I'm going to just survive and learn and grow through rough patches and not give up on myself, because I had given up on myself so many times before. And that is so much more painful than just keep going. It is so much more painful to give up on yourself. And then once you do that, have to face it again and be like, wow, I bailed on me, and then have to start the engine all over again. And I've done that so many times, and it's a brutal experience. And if you've done it, you know. And so I think it's going through these yucky parts. And again, I'm more proud of like me not being hard on myself through this. I feel like not that I'm not, a little bit I am. I mean, I can't help it, but I'm not terrorizing myself or giving up. And to me, that is a bigger accomplishment than being my lowest weight. Like, that is so much healthier for me than being small. You know what I mean? That is such a huge win. So it's like I could look through the lens of this season of my journey and be like, oh my God, I'm not a success because I'm not a smallest size, because I have gained some weight back from a lowest weight. I am not successful. I'm like, no, this is the most successful part of my journey, because I am not terrorizing myself anymore. That is such a bigger win, you guys. Oh my God. I'm tearing up over here. I am a little menstrual, but I'm on the tail end of it though. It's not as bad, but you know what I mean? Like, that's such a bigger win. And looking through a journey through that lens, to me, is so much more helpful. So of being like, that's success of how you're treating yourself and you're going through it. And especially like emotional eating is such a hard thing to tackle. And it's a lot, and we're all dealing with it in our own ways. Even maybe ways that we're not even looking at or admitting to yet. So to, I think, be understanding and caring and gentle through that process is a bigger win than forcing yourself not to eat so you can be smaller. You know what I mean? So even if that's your goal, that's fine. You do you, dude. So, but I'm just saying, I don't know if, if it's sustainable to get there by being mean to yourself or shutting down your emotions or being even more emotionally, or just being more emotional after you've made an emotional eating choice. You know what I mean? Does that make sense? So I hope I've given some solutions through this conversation. Other than just a Google search of drink a glass of water and go for a walk. Again, those are great suggestions, or whatever those things are for you. Read a book, whatever. But I think that really giving yourself some grace through it and understanding it, and really being kind to yourself through those decisions is super, super, super important. And also realizing it's not going to go away tomorrow. And also, you're not going to like starve yourself out of making these decisions. That's not going to fix it either. That a lot of this is coming from mental health. Obviously, your brain is choosing these decisions. It's not just because, of hunger cues. And I think that's, or the model of like, just eat less and move more. fails so many people, where it's like there's so much more tied into this. And, you know, this is the hard part and working through it. But it is possible to work through it and get better at it. And I have been there. And then you just kind of go on, at least for me, roll on a roller coaster, and then you get through it again. And when you get through it again, you learn even more and you get even better. And it's just like practicing, you know, and it's like learning how to play piano or anything else. Like it's a practice, and it's a practice to do forever, because, or, you know, until you're not here anymore, because you're always going to have you, and your health is the most important thing, and you got to take care of you. And so many of us are so bad at taking care of ourselves, myself included. So, I just, you know, take a moment to take care of yourself. And if eating a bag of Ruffles is taking care of yourself and you feel like this has got to be done, I am not judging you at all, because I've done that. And it's one of those things where, is that the best decision for you? I don't know. It could be in that moment. And I would say that sometimes of like, yeah, I want to eat whatever I'm going to do that's going to help me feel better emotionally. And that is the best decision right now. So, you know, there's a lot of really bad choices you could make. You know, it's like, hey, I could eat an entire bag of Ruffles, or I could go do some hardcore drugs, or I don't know. You know what I mean? Of like, it's like, there's other things that you can do to numb out, that are more dangerous than a bag of Ruffles. Shout out to Ruffles. Yes. I don't know why I use that example. They are delicious though. Put some French onion dip on there. Get after it. But yeah, you don't know what I'm saying. So that's my thoughts on emotional eating. And if you're going through it right now, me too. You're definitely not alone. And you know, we're gonna get through these things, right? We're gonna learn, and we're gonna feel good, and that's the goal. The goal is to feel good mentally and physically. That's the goal. At least it is for me. And I know we have all of our other goals outside of that, but ultimately it comes down to feeling good mentally and physically. And, you know, there's going to be a lot of different avenues you're going to try to take and experiment to get to that place. And you're just going to learn a lot of lessons along the way, and be kind to yourself through learning those lessons. And again, if you ever need somebody to chat to or anything like that, you can always reach out to me. And unless it goes to my spam or something, and there's some reason where I don't see it, I do answer emails unless there's some freaky thing. Amanda at AmandaValentineBites.com. Also, I'm on Instagram at You Can Pound This. And yeah, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're taking care, and I hope that you're being kind to yourself. And as always, thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I appreciate it very, very much. I appreciate it very much, especially whenever I feel like my own fraud. You know what I mean? Of like, hey, I'm talking about like health and wellness and doing all this stuff when I'm like struggling through those things myself. So I really appreciate you listening and your support, you know, as I'm going through my own journey. And if you find any of these episodes helpful, please share with anybody. I would be very grateful for that as well. If you ever have any suggestions for guests or topics or anything, again, email, Instagram, please let me know. And I'll talk to you later.
AmandaValentineBites.com